Hello, everybody. This is Nasira, and I am the Energy Architect. Today, we have with us Debbie Pearson, and she is a coach. Debbie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thank you. I'm just going to introduce Debbie to our viewers and our listeners. So, Debbie Pearson is a mindset and self discovery coach, and she has a unique journey marked by profound experiences and discoveries that have shaped her approach to life and coaching. With a passion for personal growth and helping others find their path, Debbie embarked on a transformational journey walking the 500-mile El Camino de Santiago. The experience not only tested her physical and emotional limits, but also deepened her understanding of resilience, perseverance, and the power of self belief. The cornerstone of Debbie's personal and professional philosophy comes from the insights gained from The Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield. This book was more than just an enjoyable book, it was the catalyst for a dramatic shift in her life. It taught her about the universal laws and the significance of becoming consciously aware. Debbie learned that we all possess the power to craft our destinies, leading to greater joy, inner peace, fulfillment, and happiness that sticks. Debbie has been coaching for over 30 years. She infuses these teachings, aiming to empower clients to recognize their own strength and potential. Debbie believes that understanding and applying the principles of conscious creation can transform lives, as it did for her, guiding individuals towards a life of intention and profound satisfaction. Debbie, welcome.
Thank you. It is really great to be here.
Thank you. And the Energy Architect podcast is all about exactly what I just mentioned, everything that you
Mhm.
stand for. It's all about
Yes,
getting people unstuck in their lives, and it looks like you have a passion and a mission to do the same.
absolutely. We've been stuck for far too long.
So, Debbie, we were talking about this life-changing moment for you when you
Mhm.
when you walked the walk, and what was that like for you, and what did that change for you?
Everything. Like I was one of those people who did what I thought I was supposed to do. I worked hard, I achieved, I acquired. I just kept moving up and up and up. And there was a point in my life, I was at the pinnacle of my career and I was working as a civilian, but for a four-star general in the Air Force. And that's like a coveted position. So I'm working there. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. Everything on the outside looks great, the money, the car, the house, all the things. But I'm on the inside, I'm miserable. Like, what am I doing? What is my purpose here? I mean, I knew what my job was. What was my purpose? And that was a big, big, big question for me. So I had plenty of extra vacation time. They call it use or lose, and I didn't want to lose it. So I needed to use it. So I began typing in vacations with purpose because I wanted to do something other than go. Not that there's anything wrong with going to a beach and being quiet and sitting, but I wanted to do something more. So started researching vacations with purpose. Yes, I could work at an animal sanctuary or, dig a well maybe, or build homes for needy people, but valiant adventures, but not really calling me. And then I came across the page for El Camino de Santiago. And the minute I saw it, I like to say she, because we call the Camino she called to me. I was drawn and pulled to go do this thing to a point where I had a conviction about it. Like either they were going to give me, my um, job was going to give me the time off or I was going to quit. But I was really glad they gave me the time off so I didn't have to quit. At least that's what I thought. So I go on this 6-week trek, walking 5 to 7 hours a day For me, it was 38 days. And I had lesson after lesson after lesson that you just like, things start coming into focus for you because you don't have the stressors of your regular life. It's literally you get up, walk, you eat, you sleep, and you repeat this over and over. And as you go through the days, it is a wealth of information if you're willing to pay attention, which is one of the things that I'm really passionate about. Pay attention. If something happened, why did it happen? Why did you have that emotional reaction? So I grew immensely intellectually and emotionally on this 6-week period I was gone. I get back to work and I'm like, oh, I cannot stay here. I can't stay here. I knew that I had a transformation that would never occur if I stayed, continue to occur if I stayed where I was. So it took me a little time because I'm like, I can't just walk away, but it took about 8 or 9 months and I gathered myself together and I made my little, what I call my escape plan. And then I did. I literally put in my resignation and the time came and I quit my job. I sold everything I owned and I drove away. And as I'm pulling out of the driveway that I will never go back in again, the happiness, the elation, the excitement that I knew I did the right thing for me was just so evident. And so walking the Camino was this big transforming moment in my life. And it took a little bit, but then I began to veer. And so now I teach what I learned, which is huge because I'm blown away what I've begun to realize and study, I'm blown away how many women actually, and there's like 70% of women in the world that have some similar issues. And, those fall under some categories. Like, I feel like something's missing in my life. What is it? Or I have a loss, whether it's a job loss, a loved one loss, kids leave the house, whatever it is. What is my purpose now? I've lost my purpose. Another one is I don't feel like I belong. And another one is I never quite feel good enough, no matter how much I acquire or accomplish. These are huge. Like I would not have thought, I thought I was alone. Turns out, no, there's many of us out there. And what we do to help ourselves in that realm, a lot of times we overcompensate. We do more, we become more, we get another raise, another certificate, we try to acquire something bigger, a bigger house, a larger car, something more expensive. And what we overwhelmingly desire is to have others validate us. And what I've come to understand, realize, and have a process is when we can learn to validate ourselves, we move from overachiever to high achiever. A high achiever is just somebody that just loves what they do and they're excited that they met their goals and they're happy for themselves. Sure, when other people validate them, it's extra. The candles that go on the icing that's on the cake, right? It's like that next step up. But when we actually need other people to validate us, that's falling on that more unhealthy side of achieving. So an overachiever does it to get from other people, not in a selfish way, just we think we need other people to validate us. Where a high achiever is someone that is just so excited about what they're doing that they don't need the other person to validate them. They can do that on their own and just be really proud of, the achievements that they've had. I think that was a really long answer to your question.
But it was a beautiful answer and so profound
Thank you.
that, that real shift from being an overachiever to a high achiever, and people really understanding what that actually means. I think that that's going to be like a game changer for so many. And I
Yeah.
know a lot of women who struggle with that. I
Yep.
being one of them, I must confess that the validation has been so important for me. And we also realize that there's all of whatever we're achieving is for that validation.
Mhm.
And if you don't get it, it doesn't even feel like an achievement. So
Yeah.
what would be your advice for
Mm.
people women especially, who are still
Because
overachiever mode. Yeah.
yeah. It's really challenging because they sound so much alike. Um, I like to think of it as I'm sorry, okay, we'll do overachiever as like overwhelm and overload, and I'm just challenged, and it's over excessive. Where high achiever is I'm high, if you will, naturally on what I accomplished. And so that's how I kind of distinguish them. So one's a little healthier, right? Because I don't need other people. I'm doing this on my own. I have my emotional intelligence has raised to a point where I'm more self-sufficient. I'm more secure in who I am and what I do, that I don't need other people. I want them. I want to share my accomplishments. I want to brag about my accomplishments. I'm proud of what I did. So I want to talk to the high achievers. Good. They don't need any of this information. They're good. The overachiever, because of more often than not how we were raised or the people we were around enough in our childhoods, and then as we moved on. So at home, at school, in our professional organizations, we're not taught how to look within and take care of ourselves. And we have a tendency to have that critical or negative self-talk going on. What did you do all that for? Nobody even noticed. And we're talking to ourselves, right? Or, oh my God, you're so ridiculous about this. And we are just in a constant negative energy, negative self-talk, critical thinking, critical mode. And we don't even realize that it's there until we do. So for some people, they're living 90% of their lives just talking to themselves like that without even realizing it. So, first of all, step one is always awareness. Oh, oh, I am doing that. Now what? So, what I teach my students and my clients is when I notice that I'm speaking to myself like that, to do a couple of things. One is, would I speak to a coworker, a loved one, my good friend like that? No, I would never speak to these people in the way I'm speaking to myself. So this is huge. So for one, we want the tone to speak to ourselves the way we speak to others, friends, relatives, etc. So what can that look like? I know a lot of people enjoy affirmations, even positive affirmations. I want this to be a little bit different than that. This is bringing to yourself the same compassion, empathy, patience, kindness, forgiveness, gratitude that you give to others, to learn how to speak to yourself that way. So, how can I be self compassionate? So, if I speak to myself, I'm going to use a simple example of um, I might get in trouble at work because I have a tendency to be late. So I thought, okay, I'm going to put my keys by the door because the reason I'm late is I can never find my keys. So I'm going to put them by the door in a bowl, and that way they'll always be there when I'm ready to walk out the door. So let's say we decide, okay, that's what I'm going to do. But I go to the door and I forgot to put the keys there. I'm like, oh my gosh. So instead of going, oh, you're so stupid, I can't believe you didn't put the keys, and then chastise ourselves, we'll probably start with, oh my gosh, you're so stupid. Oh, that's not loving. That's not caring. And I'm not being compassionate with myself. What if I tell myself, okay, you're learning something new. You need to be patient with yourself. We're going to get this, we meaning that voice and me, right? We're going to get this if we keep practicing. Our brains are designed for the physical world, which is learn, practice, progress, right? We learn something new. Just think of anything you've ever learned in your life. You learn something new, you practice it, you grow or progress. It's the same with the emotional world. We're not used to practicing there, though. So if I'm learning a new behavior, I have to be compassionate with myself. I mean, if you've never played an instrument before, you can't just play another instrument. You've got to learn it, practice it, and you progress. If you've never put your keys by the door, you've got to learn it, practice it kindly and gently with yourself, and you will progress. So you be committed to you. Have that compassion and love for yourself. Forgive yourself if you mess up. Oh, I did it 3 days in a row and now I didn't. Oh my gosh, I'm a loser. No, we have to just practice again. We can talk to ourselves negatively. But what I've discovered over and over and over again, when people practice 4 concepts: self-patience, self-compassion, self-forgiveness. I'm not talking about other people right now. This is all very me right now. Self-forgiveness and self-gratitude. How often are we grateful for ourselves? Rarely. We know how to be grateful for all of the other things out in the world, all these other people up and down and all around. But how can I be grateful for myself? In this case, with the keys, now it's been 30 days, 40 days, and I can go, I am so grateful to myself for not giving up on myself and for actually sticking with this new way of being that I'm choosing for me, that actually serves me. It aligns with my values of being on time. It's like now it's starting to fall into place. I have experienced over and over with clients when they've done this consistently, about 6 months later, there is 90% of the negative or critical self-talk is gone. And although it may rear its head, they know exactly what to do to go, I don't want to speak that way to myself. How would I speak to someone else and hear that way and then speak to myself in that same tone? It's magical.
Wow.
It's
Sounds
all about
fantastic.
it's about being consciously aware of what you're doing. And so much of our, again, the brain, the way it's designed, is designed to store patterns. And the minute we come up with a pattern, whether it's a good pattern or a bad pattern, the brain will go, oh, I recognize that pattern, and it'll just start automatic. If you think about it's time to go to bed, for a lot of people, without thought, they're heading to the bathroom to brush their teeth. They don't think, if I go to bed, I have to do these 6 steps. It's not like that. It's we've got a pattern and a rhythm, and it's automatic, and we just do the things we do till we slide ourselves into the bed. So it is recognizing, am I going in the direction I want to go, or am I not? I think of it as an emotional GPS. What's my end result? Is it self-respect, self-worth, self-love, whatever that end result? And you can have many end results if you want to. But when something happens, I can look at it later, because often it's hard to look at in the moment, but I can look at it minutes later, days, weeks, years later. Am I heading in the direction I want to go in? And if I am, that's great. It takes time and we have to take lots of steps to get there. But if I'm not, what could I do differently? What could I do differently that's going to matter? We're going to start with me. It's going to matter to me. And here's why it's not selfish, because I can hear people, oh, it's selfish. Why? And they get really, really upset about this. If I take care of myself in a way that raises my vibration, then everyone I speak to with a higher level vibration is going to have a better experience. We're all going to benefit from it. So raising our vibration, which means taking care of ourselves, being compassionate and loving towards ourselves, is raising our vibration. Self-care and self-love is not selfish. It's actually almost, what would that be called? Like it's a challenge. It's really, really a challenge because of how we've been programmed to believe things. But it's like, it's hard work, but it's worth it work. Every single time, an awareness of, oh my gosh, I've been doing that. And I didn't even realize that I was doing that. I have a process so I can shift the way I do something. And I raise that vibration. Everyone benefits from my higher level of vibration. And I don't mean I'm way up here. Okay. These are incremental little bitty vibrational changes that slowly shift over time. but the benefit of us doing this is beneficial to the entire world.
Thank you for sharing that. That was um, really amazing. I love the way you described it as your emotional GPS. And when you're talking about all of these things that you're expecting from the outside, it really boils down to the work that you need to do from the inside, right? And
Yes,
uh, uh, and it is like it's inside out, not outside in. It's like literally reversing that entire flow of expectation, you
yeah.
know. And that is what people fail to realize. Many people I know, and even me for the longest time, I always thought that if something outside of me was better, I would change. This would be
Yes.
better. If something outside of me was like this, then I would have been like this, not really knowing that if it's me.
It is us. And unfortunately, or fortunately, again, it's all about the brain, how the brain works and stores these patterns. Um, in my childhood, I had a situation over and over where my mom might agree to do something, but then she'd tell me I had to go do it for a neighbor or for her organization. So to me, I would be so upset because it's like, how can you decide for me what I'm going to do? But I'm the child, so I have to do what my mom says. But that upset followed me into adulthood. So that's up to me, even though I didn't know the words to use at the time, that she crossed the boundary. Okay. I don't want to go into whether parents are allowed to or not, but it was as if the sensation I had was, how dare you, do this to me? As I grow up, I can have a situation where someone crosses that same boundary. That boundary, there's 6 different boundaries. That one is time and energy. So if someone crosses the time and energy, they want me to do something, but then they don't show up or but whatever it is, I get so almost enraged about it. I should say I used to. I could feel my anger rising, the anxiety that I was going to have to confront them. How dare they? And just all this going on when in reality, they're just doing what they do to everybody. And this is how I reacted to that. When I saw that, because it's a hard concept, like, no, it's them. If they hadn't have done that thing, I wouldn't be feeling this way. Knowing that I have a different way that I can be, where I can separate that and say, I see. Yes, she's doing a thing that feels very invasive. I also have the power to be able to have a conversation with this person and say, hey, I notice that I get really, really upset when this thing happens. Is it possible that we could work something out where it happens differently? Now I'm being very general right now, right? But in this particular case, she was like, oh, yeah, sure. I didn't even know. And I realized it was so poignant in that moment. She wasn't doing anything to me. Well, boy, it felt like she was. But till I was able to recognize I'm operating from the past. I'm operating like this is the same thing my mom did, even though that wasn't a conscious thought.
Yeah.
The pattern that the brain just went right into, like, don't you, who you didn't get to
Right.
decide for me, and all the anger and upset that was coming. And I was like, how much more peaceful is my life now that I can separate the emotion that came through with whether or not I really need to apply it to what's going on now, or is that something from the past? Huge eye opener. So just another way to look at when someone does something or says something, or the opposite, they don't do something or they don't say something that you wish they would have. And we have a strong emotional reaction to really take a look at, again, awareness. Where's this coming from? Did I experience this before? Is this very different? Is every emotion we have is letting us know either our needs are getting met or our needs are not getting met. every emotion. So what are my needs? Are my needs getting met? What are my values? Are they getting violated or challenged? What about my belief systems? Same thing. So emotions first, and then needs, values, and beliefs. And if we could take a look at that, we're actually stepping away from that part of our brain that's reacting. And then we're using the front part of our brain, which is the thinking brain, of the slower thought. And then we can be more rational about it. Now we're responding instead of reacting. And I was a serious overreactor too. I over everything. It was like everything was too much. But I always felt like it was everyone else's fault because I'm happy and then they do a thing and now I'm not happy, must be them. But in reality, we get to look inside. Again, not the easiest path, but definitely the most rewarding path, because now, yeah, I still get that. But as soon as it starts coming, I'm like, okay, that thing is happening again, that strong emotional reaction. Now I can ask myself those other questions. It's like I live a happier life, a more joyful life. I don't get anywhere near as reactive as I used to be. Still comes up every now and again. I still have work to do, but
Yeah,
that's okay.
that's
It's
true for
okay.
everyone. That's true for
Hmm.
everyone because we are
Yeah.
constantly learning and evolving, and yeah, practice, like you said.
Yeah.
That's really something, because awareness is one thing, but then when you don't put it into practice, it just doesn't happen. Theoretically, you
Right.
just know it, but you're not practicing, and therefore that habit will just not uh, establish.
And that's the thing. A lot of people go, okay, I'm aware of it, but I don't know what to do. And that is the part that you need to figure out for you. And that's when a coach is great to have, because this is exactly what we talked about before earlier. It's like when we're in the place of, I know that happened, I don't know what to do, I'm stuck.
Right.
I'm just stuck. Now what? Go to a coach that specializes in how to get unstuck, because the coach is going to see things that the individual just can't. We can't see the forest for the trees, but out there they can look in. The coach can look in and say, I can see these things. Do you see these? Whatever the pattern is that the coach wants to work with that person. So the highly encourage, because for me, therapy was, it worked in the moment, but I was left lacking. Like, okay, you gave me a lot of insight. Like, I wanted my therapist to fix my husband because he was broken. Not really, but it was like he was driving me crazy. So it must be him if he's driving, because I'm fine. He's driving me crazy. But the coach would, I mean, with the therapist would just kind of ask me questions. Have you thought about this? Did you look at this? How do you feel about that? And it was kind of like insights, I guess, and
Mm-hmm.
thoughts, like, but no workable solutions.
Right.
And I went for weekly for months on end and just really never got anywhere other than I got to talk and this person listened and that felt great.
Yeah.
But I've
Yeah.
worked with a coach and they're like, here's some skills,
Right.
here's new perspectives. Like, oh, wow. Sure, they ask questions. I ask questions, a lot of questions. But if that person's still stuck, I'll say, let's look at an essential skill that might work really well for you. And
Mhm.
that was a game changer for me. I want to help people become unstuck, but then they can do it on their own. They don't need me. We got lots and lots of people that need help. We don't need to keep one person coming back to us, for years on end. But that's just how I feel about it.
No,
So,
I think a lot of people feel that way, and I absolutely agree with you because I'm a coach as well, and uh, the one thing that I have realized about being a coach is the kind of uh, insights that we have and the kind of perspective that we have is we don't even like really just it's like holding a mirror to a person, okay, but it doesn't
mhm,
just stop there, right?
right.
There is a destination,
Yep.
and the progress to that destination is something I feel that a coach really uh, you know uh, um, helps, assists. You know,
Sure.
I think that is
Absolutely.
a game changer because
Yeah.
it's not just venting or this is my
Right.
problem, but it's like I have this problem and this is what I want to do, this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to do, and this is how far I've gotten from point A to point B. And I love that.
Yep. Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So it's a little bit more process oriented, even though it may not be a specific process because everybody's different. Because
You
they come
spoke,
in at different places. Some, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, no, please tell me.
Um, Different people come in in different places, meaning if we used school just as an example, somebody might come in second grade, somebody else might come in eighth grade. And so they have that much knowledge with them. So you're going to treat them differently. But the thing is, that end results, that end goal is what they want, not what I want for them, but what they want. And I want to help them get to that point.
Earlier, you spoke about boundaries, and why do you think boundaries are so important? Because it's not everybody sees that very positively. And I am someone who believes that, boundaries are essential, especially when you are a recovering people pleaser, that understanding of what a boundary actually is. Why
Mhm.
is that important?
Boundaries are important um, because they allow us, the individual, to have dignity and respect for ourselves. When someone does something, even if it's unintentional, okay? So um, there can be intentional intrusions and there can be unintentional intrusions. People don't always realize that their actions are upsetting to us. Some people do. Like your sister goes and steals your shirt, your sweater, and haha, whatever. Those are intentional. But when people do cross your boundary, there's a sense of either a violation or a challenge. Families, many times, believe that families don't need boundaries. Well, we're a family, we don't need to have boundaries. When in fact, the healthiest, emotionally healthiest families actually have boundaries and they respect each other's boundaries. So, why is it important? Because I get to determine what parts of me I allow other people in and what parts of me I want them to stay back a little bit. That doesn't make me bad or wrong or selfish. It makes me an individual that has different needs than other people. So some boundaries might be, I alluded to time and energy. Like when a person wastes my time or my energy, I find that very frustrating. And I can, bring it back to the past and I can say, I can see where that started, but it also still occurs. Another one is physical possessions. You might need to take care of other people's stuff, somebody's portfolio or something at work, maybe an estate or something. So other stuff. Material possessions, those are your own personal items, your clothing, your car, your own money. So you don't want your child coming and taking money. They crossed the line. Sexual boundaries, which are pretty self-evident, and those are going to be different for everyone. Um, Emotional boundaries. Don't speak to me in that way. You don't have permission. That me having a boundary about how I will allow someone to speak to me allows me to protect myself and respect myself and believe in my own self-worth that speaking to me in that way is unacceptable. I have to make my choices of what's going to happen after someone violates or challenges a boundary. What am I going to do about it? But there's time and energy, physical, emotional, sexual, material, and one more that I just can't think of right on the top of my head, but 6 of those. And the challenge for us as humans is too many times we were told that we were being selfish or we should be ashamed of ourselves if we didn't allow that boundary to be crossed. And it's unfortunate, but again, the brain stored, oh, I must be bad if I do that. Oh, I'm selfish if I don't let everybody use my stuff or whatever. But it's not true. It is a, it has become, let me say it the right way. It's become normalized, but it's actually not natural. We naturally want to protect ourselves. But if we were chastised or punished or whatever growing up, whether at home or neighbor down the street or teacher or coach or whatever, sports coach or something, we begin to doubt ourselves because we feel one thing, but we're being told that that's not true. Well, I'm feeling it. Yeah, but it's not true. But I feel it's not true. So now I can't trust what I'm feeling because I'm thinking that maybe I'm wrong. And now self-doubt comes in. That just exacerbates into a whole bunch of other things. So boundaries are super important. We must have moral courage in order to enforce boundaries, but that's a whole different interview. Okay. That's a whole, it's big, but it's
Right.
wonderful. It's wonderful. Highly encourage people to learn about, discover boundaries and how to enforce their boundaries in a loving way, because we can enforce them in a loving way. Doesn't have to be, you can't do that anymore, or I'll never speak to you again. It doesn't have to be like that. We think of it that way because we get to the point of being so frustrated that we lash out. But there are other ways to handle boundaries and the moral courage it takes, because it does. We have to stand up to someone. But if we can do it from a place of, um, I'm going to just say, a place of love, um, a, we loving ourselves, but it can also be loving for the other person. People that are true friends, they're truly engaged with each other. We don't have problems that there's a boundary. If you set a boundary on these interviews, right? I can see you from here to here. That's it. I respect that boundary. I didn't get mad because you had a boundary, and that's your time. That's your time and energy. So I can appreciate it and accept it, or I can say, well, that doesn't work for me and move on. Now, I know this is very simple explanation, but that very simple explanation can actually be used in a lot of different ways. I could have called you and said, oh, I can't meet at that time. Is there any other time? You may have been willing to work with me, right? But how is anybody going to know unless there's a conversation that's had? So there are ways to communicate. Sometimes it's called compassionate communication. Um, that's a really good topic to delve into. If speaking to other people so that you can share what's going on with you, because we're people pleasers. We don't want anybody to be upset with us. There are ways to speak and so that the other person doesn't get mad, but they actually can understand, oh, okay, I didn't realize that, or, doesn't mean it's perfect. Not everybody's going to agree, but it will happen more often than I think that you may think it will.
Debbie, there was something that you spoke about a little while back, and it's about not feeling good enough. And
Mhm.
I know many, many people who go through that. They have this feeling in them that they're not worthy of,
Yeah.
something because they feel they're not good enough. And what would be your advice to them?
Well, we can have a chat about that, but it does take some changes. Um, there is a concept called attachment styles. I won't go into where it originated and everything, that can be found anywhere, but how we were raised, our emotional connection with our parents or lack of emotional connection with our parents determines a lot of how we feel about ourselves. There's about 25-30% maybe maximum, I would say, probably closer to the 20-25% of children that were raised in households where the parents were emotionally engaged with them, gave them lots of time, showed them value, helped them see inside themselves, right? That reverse that we're used to. Most people in this world were raised by, I'll call it, less than emotionally available parents. Sometimes it's very toxic parents. Sometimes it's just emotionally immature parents. Sometimes it's emotionally absent. And absent could be many things. The change of a job, they're no longer available at certain times, could be death, could be divorce, could be a lot of things. But we're going to call it lack of emotional parents. When our parents are not giving emotionally in a way that each individual child may need, it goes back to that emotions, feelings, needs, beliefs. We feel like I must have done something for my parent not to give me that love. They may push us away because they're busy with a project. They may just be unable to love because they grew up in a household that did not have that kind of emotional connection. There's many reasons why a parent may be the way they are. Why they are the way they are isn't quite as important as as how much you were able to get your needs met, your emotional needs met growing up. When we don't, I'll just kind of bottom line it. When we don't get those emotional needs met, there's something lacking. My people say, I feel like there's something missing. It's because there is. And that is emotional connection. Sometimes it's an emotional connection to ourselves, which is the most important relationship you can ever have. Attaching emotionally to someone else, what happens if they go away? They fall off the face of the earth for whatever reason. I'm back to square one. Having an emotional relationship with myself is so important because, again, vibration rises, everyone wins. But if we don't get our needs met as a child, we grow up feeling something's missing. We often feel like I don't belong. I didn't belong in my family. They would have given me more emotional attention if I did. So must be something wrong with me. I'm not worthy of their attention. However, when I do certain things, they seem to give me some attention. Well, I'm going to do more of those things. So for some kids, it's overachieving. I got all A's on my report going, yay, honey, you're so wonderful. And they love you. And you're like, oh, I need to do that more often, not consciously. But our emotions raise, right? Oh, those needs got met. I feel better. I'm going to do more of that. For some kids, it's becoming terrors. The only attention they get is when they're bad, if you will. They're being bad because they get attention, and that attention is so critical. Time, attention, and acceptance to a child equals love. And we all are children inside. We carry with us every age we've ever been. It's all in there. So, what would I suggest? The biggest suggestion I have, which is not going to make a lot of sense to a lot of people, because I'm not telling them how. I can, but in this interview, it's learn to love yourself. It is like bottom line, the most important thing you can do in your life. Because again, the more you love yourself, the higher your vibration, everyone wins. It's just a win-win-win situation. And you feel better about yourself as well.
I couldn't agree more. And you've really summarized that really beautifully. How these are all interconnected. And you know how somebody's energy and how when they raise their vibration, everything just kind of aligns
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing, but it does. I can't explain that, but I know that it happens because hundreds, if not thousands of women, same thing over and over. And the aha moments of, oh my gosh, I didn't think this was possible. Or I remember a lady saying, like, about 4 months into the program, and she went something, something. And now I love myself. And she was like, did I just say that? Like, it stunned her that she said it. So we call it like a wave, a slow, gentle wave that happens. And it's not like a crashing blow. It's not like you go, yesterday I didn't love myself. Today I do love myself. It doesn't work like that. It is the more I take care of myself, the more I'm paying attention to what's going on inside of me, the more I'm shifting those negative thoughts to loving thoughts, not just positive affirmations. Those can be wonderful, but you got to believe those 100%, I think, in order for them to actually work. I never believed them. I didn't believe that money was going to rain down on me and it was going to be great in my bank account, but I'd said it for a year every day. I said, I'm going to say it for 365 days. 365 days. I talked about money comes easy to me and my bank account is growing, blah, blah. No, but I also didn't really believe it. I was
Right.
saying words, but I didn't have the energy that went with it. But once we actually begin to shift some of these things, be more self-compassionate, huge, advocate for yourself. Nobody's going to do it for you. It's just not going to happen. We've
Yeah.
a whole different thing. Self-forgiveness. You don't have to forgive anybody else. You don't have to forget anything. I'm not talking about anybody else right now. I'm talking just about the individual, you, me. The more I can forgive myself for not being perfect, for not being able to figure out how to speak a foreign language in just 2 weeks or whatever, like the more I can forgive myself for not being more than I just actually am, the more comfortable I become with who I am. Then things move quicker because I'm not fighting against what I think I should be instead
Yeah.
of actually just moving toward that.
Yeah, because you are. You just are.
Just
Yeah.
are. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so
So,
much more comfortable, peaceful. It's inside. It is so much more peaceful.
Debbie, I feel I could like talk to you like for another 2 hours.
I know, right?
Because
It's so much.
there's so much of these beautiful nuggets of wisdom,
Mhm.
that you are sharing with us. Could you tell us a little bit about the chapter that you are
Yeah.
part of with Action Takers Publishing and with Linda Sunshine and Sally Green?
Yeah.
I would love to hear about that.
Sure. So I agreed to be part of a collaboration book. It's called The Book I Read, Volume 2. There's about 22 to 25 authors in it. And we all wrote a chapter. We chose a book we read and how it impacted our life. I chose The Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield. Many years ago, I was probably in my early 30s. I came across this book and I'm like, is this for real? Is this a real book? Like I couldn't tell if it was fiction or nonfiction. And as I'm reading it, it turns out that the main character, uses the word I all the time. So all of a sudden you're assuming the role of the character. And I'm going on that plane and I'm running through the jungles of Peru and I'm getting shot at. And it's just this action adventure and it's very exciting. But what they were doing, the people in the book, but the main character as well, was finding what they called insights. It was these old manuscripts, and each of the 9 manuscripts held an important insight. And what I learned from that was the insights were about paying attention and becoming more consciously aware and all the things we talked about. But it was for me, in my brain's infancy of ever hearing about anything like this. And so I was just enthralled, like, wait, what is that? And I understood insight 1, 2, and 3. I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And the next one, like, yeah, I've experienced that. And just very, very exciting. Then I got to insights 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like, I don't know what they're talking about, but the story was still great. Usually, when I close a book, I'm done. There's too many books to read a book 2 times. At least that's what I thought. But about 10 years later, I don't know how, but I came across the book again. I was like, oh, I remember this being so good. I'm going to read it again. And I started reading it. And I realized, yeah, I still knew 1, 2, and 3, but now I knew number 4 and number 5. And I understood number 6. And it was just fabulous to see that I had grown, like really grown, but to also go, this adventure was just as much fun and exciting the second time around. So it was like the premise of 1, 2, and 3 were already there for me, but apparently 4, 5, and 6 were ruminating in the back of my head. And I was actually learning to do these things. And it's like, I know I say that I've been coaching for 30 years, not full time. I just want to be clear about that. But for years, just part time coaching. And I would always bring and infuse these insights into my coaching. And we would talk about these, and it was helping people shift from one step to the next. And I just call it connecting the dots because, we all have little bits and pieces of different things. But sometimes if it's stuck in that unconscious part of our mind, we can't access it. not from the front part, the conscious part. But there's ways, like in the process, writing down a question, answering your own questions. I know the answer to this, but not struggling, but just knowing it, knowing that I know it, it's in there somewhere. And then coming back and trying to just answer the question by handwriting. I find handwriting just works better than typing. And we do find answers, but sometimes we're still stuck and we do have to find someone to help us, and that's perfectly fine. But the minute they say it, the minute that I know, if it's the same for you, I will ask somebody, have you thought about, I don't know, having a conversation with or getting their buy-in? Like, what? No. But it's like we've gotten buy-in from people before. We just didn't connect those dots. So it's just helping connect those dots over and over and over again. I find that infusing what I learned from the Celestine prophecy, and now there's like 10, insight number 10 and another book, but I'm growing too, so why not? And I keep reading these, but that in combination with what I learned on the Camino has created my process, which I call a self-discovery process, which is this mind-blowing way of getting it from the unconscious part of your mind to the conscious part of your mind. And it's changing lives, lots of lives. I deal mainly with women. I will work with a man, but only as a private coach. But my membership and my Facebook group and it's a lot of women. So yeah, I don't remember what the question was you asked me.
But you answered it. It was
Okay,
about the
good.
chapter.
Yay. Okay, that's right. I went from chapter and then kept going.
No, but
Okay.
that's exactly what I wanted to know. And
Okay.
it's beautiful the way you've analyzed it, the way you've processed all of that information and how it's turned out. It's just so beautiful. I love the way you're connecting the dots and helping other people, other women
Yeah,
also connect the dots
right.
because that's what a good coach really does, you know,
Yeah,
really
yeah,
helps them, they are the GPS.
yeah. Exactly. Exactly. It's so rewarding.
Debbie, I'm sure a lot of people would like to reach out to you at some point after watching you. And how is it that somebody can reach you?
They can go to debbiepearson.com for one. That's the website. You may see Self-Discovery Circle on there, but it's my website. So debbiepearson.com. Or if you want to write me, you can write to debbie@debbiepearson.com, and I'm happy to have an email come through.
Okay. And is there a gift that you would like to give out to people who are watching you today?
Of course. So on my website, if you go to debbiepearson.com, there is a free assessment. And that free assessment is 10 questions. And those 10 questions are going to help you determine where you are on the spectrum of, will the work that I talked about today be helpful and beneficial? And you'll know as you're answering those questions. You're like, yep, that's me. Yep, that's me. Or nope, I'm good. So as you go through the questions. But the more you resonate with the questions, the more your life can change in a positive way, which again raises your vibration. And then it's a win for everyone, but especially for you. It is a process. It's a monthly membership, so people can come in, go as they please. I allow everyone to self-determine if they want to stay in or if they want to cancel. It's totally up to them. But people love what's happening. We do a lot of connection. We call it the circle because we literally will have conversation as if we're sitting in a virtual circle, and we learn from everybody else because as well as I do, other people's stories resonate with us. And so we share our stories, and we share our stories of pain, but we also share our wins, our successes, and our steps forward. So it's really a lot of enlightenment that happens.
There's a lot of celebration I can see.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
When it happens, because it doesn't always happen, but when it does, we definitely want to celebrate. And every woman's journey is honored and it's appreciated because we're all in different places where something I could do today, I might not have been able to do 20 years ago. That may have been either unacceptable in my mind or unacceptable for that point in time. Maybe I couldn't have quit my job then, where 5 years ago I was able to. 20 years ago, I may not have been able to, or may not have felt I was able to. That made me stuck because I had that going on. So yeah, it's a lot of realizations that if we knew better, we would do better, right? But if we don't know, how do you know what to do if you don't know? I had a boyfriend who said, God, you're so driven. This is like 15 years ago. He said, you're so driven. I was like, I am, because I was searching for something missing. What's missing? What's missing? Because you're so driven. I am. He goes, what are you looking for? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. He goes, well, how are you going to know if you find it? I'll just know. Like, I would just know. Do you know that feeling,
I do.
Nasira? Do you do? Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, it's kind of like if I got the thing, I would feel it. I would know it. So yeah, that was another like one of those driving forces. And it's like my life has just culminated into this beautiful space. And look, it took a very long time to get here. We're talking 4 decades, okay? Like a long time. But I don't know that I would change anything. Even as painful as it's been at times, if it took all of that so that I got where I am and I can help women the way I do, worth every moment. Yeah.
I love your journey. Your journey's been so beautiful. I love
Thank
the
you.
way look at who you've become. It's
Mm.
just so beautiful. From high achiever,
Yes. Or from overachiever to high.
overachiever to high achiever. I have to
Yes,
practice
yes.
that.
That's okay.
But
That's okay.
but yeah, but that was so valuable. That really
Mm,
was. And
yeah.
it comes across so clearly in your journey.
Mm.
Thank you
You're welcome.
so much. Thank you so much, Debbie.
Yes,
Um,
thank you. This was fun. I
this was
love
fun.
talking about it.
I can see
If
your
it can help
passion.
people.
It's just coming alive. You're coming
Yeah.
alive. And that's why I said high achiever.
Yes.
That's what it
Now.
feels like, right?
Yes, yes. Now it's high achieving. I do it because I just absolutely love it. And if somebody doesn't validate me, it's okay. It's just okay. It's not that I'm mad or I don't care. Like it's just okay. I don't need them to, but they can. It's okay. Like I appreciate it when it comes, but I know that I'm doing it for the right reason now. Yeah.
And you are really vibrating very, very highly. So I would
Thank
love
you.
to congratulate you on that.
Thank you.
And
Very kind.
um, thank you so much for this time that you've spent with us. Okay,
Thank
talking
you.
to us about how each of us can get unstuck. Okay,
Yes.
this is what the Energy Architect podcast is all about. It's all about
Perfect.
understanding where you are, why you are, and what can you do to move out of the situation that you're in. So many
Mm,
people get stuck because they don't know
yeah.
that there are tools and there are ways to be able to get out of it. And that is why we have people like you on the podcast really showing us direction.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed myself.
Thank you. And I did too.
Good. It was great.
Um, so I'm going to be signing off now. And Debbie, thank you. Thank you to all of our viewers and listeners. That was Debbie with us, and I had a wonderful time talking to her, and we're going to be back again. Maybe we could get Debbie sometime back again to talk about another topic that she's really passionate
Sure.
about, and we could learn something from that. But for now, I'm going to be signing out. All right. Bye, everyone.